Well, what do we have here? I don't know if it's cut me off at the beginning or not, but I guess we're about to find out. Yeah, you mess with the bull and you get the horns, right? I think that's how the expression goes. And I'm here to be bullish on Reddit stories.
And happy 98 days until Halloween.
Yes, happy 98 days until Halloween, which I guess is something that we are celebrating now.
Well, so of course 100 days up to Halloween was 2 days ago, and there's a whole big countdown. And so,
Ooh, countdown.
those of us who love Halloween will do a little countdown.
Yeah, so if you are anticipating Halloween, then this is the group with Amber for you.
I am your people.
It looks like we already have one no, and we have one it's always Halloween in my soul directly from Amber herself.
Of course. I had to vote.
Of course you did. Of course
I
you
mean,
did.
I love summer too. Don't get me wrong. I do love summer, but I feel like you should be able to celebrate Halloween in the summer too.
Yeah?
Like summer needs to be a little spooky.
Yeah.
Which is why I wrote a summer horror book.
Yes. Amber does love her horror and she does love her Halloween. So maybe we petition everyone to have 2 Halloweens.
Ooh, yes. Let's do 2 Halloweens.
And then when Amber, gets her second Halloween, she'll petition for a third one.
Of course.
Until finally every day is Halloween. If this is I know that I'm making a slippery slope argument here, but it's not. I assure you it isn't a slippery slope argument. If we give Amber one additional Halloween day, every day will turn into Halloween. I promise you that.
Every day already is Halloween with me.
And folks, I want to ask before we get too far into things, can you hear us? Are we loud enough? I can turn the volume up just slightly more if we are in desperate need of not being heard. I don't know if that was English or not. It wasn't. I'm going to assume if I don't hear anything in the chat in the next 30 seconds that we are A-okay and ready and raring to go. I don't see anyone. But thank you everyone for joining us so far, and I guess we'll jump right into the Reddit stories here. Alright folks, and our first letter is titled, Am I a Jerk for Declining to Apologize to My Sister for an Incident Where I Believe That I Was Not in the Wrong, Even Though It Would quote-unquote restore the peace? Well, a little bit of backstory. For a time, just before Christmas, I would gift my sister with money, which she then generally would spend on buying gifts for her children. Well, a couple of years ago, though, I made the decision to forgive a hefty financial debt that she owed me rather than give her money. Well, my sister did not take that well. She felt entitled to the money that I traditionally gifted her, and instead, I was ruining the holiday for her kids. For the record, her kids still had a fantastic Christmas, as their grandparents on both sides were quite generous, and it wasn't as if my sister couldn't afford to buy them anything. Just had to buy them less. Ah, excellent. Welcome, sweet memories. Welcome, Mary, and welcome, Marcia. Anyways, my sister cut me out of her life shortly after Christmas. She made a show of trying to shame me to my family and friends, only for most people to question why she was being so ungrateful for all the help that I'd given her up until then. Not to mention forgive the debt, which naturally upset her all the more because I guess she expected others would comfort her as the victim of my greed. Well, she made it clear that she would not attend events that I was present at, and even refused to do family portraits with our grandfather last year, which was pretty disappointing since we've lost him, so that was our last opportunity to have a photo with him. So flash forward to this past weekend. Suddenly my sister was willing to move past all of this, but only if I agreed to publicly apologize to her. She wants me to make a post online confessing that I intentionally hurt her and that I was in the wrong. Well, now my perspective is that I feel like this is complete BS. Even if I did not physically give her money before Christmas, I still gifted her a significant more than I would have otherwise by forgiving her debts. Additionally, no one is entitled to a gift. In my opinion, it's not as if I'm lending up to and then leading up to, and then I would talk to her about how I was going to give her the money, she simply expected it based on the past history. Well, our parents and other family members obviously want peace between us, and in all honesty, I'm willing to move on and resume our relationship because I'm not even angry. I think that she has been dumb with her behavior, but she's hurt herself and others far, far more than she's hurt me. But since my sister is stubborn and dead set that she's the victim, she refuses to settle for anything less than demanding me apologize on Facebook to her satisfaction. I don't want to be a jerk, but I also don't want to do that. I'm willing to make peace, but I feel like my sister is far more desperate for personal validation rather than actually settling anything between us. Am I the jerk? All right, folks, what do you think?
No, I mean, I think the sister is clearly in the wrong, and I think OP, just make sure everyone knows what your sister is asking of you, and let everyone know why you're not willing to do it. I mean, that you have nothing to apologize for. You essentially gave your sister the equivalent of the same amount of money. Not that you're entitled to, but like you forgave her debt. That was a really good gesture. And she's upset that you didn't also give her money on top of that.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is just extraordinarily entitled, to be quite honest. I don't think that OP owes them an apology. I mean, they forget, like OP said, if they had been leading them on for months and said, oh, I'm going to give you money, I'm going to give you money, I'm going to give you money, right? Then I could understand the sister being a little more upset. But I mean, I guess I can see where the sister is coming from a little tiny bit here. And the reason why is because if this is something that OP does every single year, then they may have been expecting it this year, right? But you can't be guaranteed a present.
Well, that's the thing, is like you can't count on it. Like people's financial circumstances can always change. There's all kinds of things that can happen. And so even, if you're used to someone giving you a gift, you shouldn't be kind of, it should be a nice extra, but don't plan with that in mind, because again, things can change and you may not have that in your hands.
Yeah. But what do the comments have to say?
So Mary says, not the jerk, you wouldn't be doing sis any favors by accommodating her actions. And Brian, this is the other pile of stories.
Oh, am I in the wrong pile of stories?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I guess I'm in the wrong pile of stories. I must have selected the wrong one here. Let me see. Are you sure I selected the wrong one?
I think so.
Oh yeah, I guess I did select the wrong pile. I don't know how that's happened here. Oh no, folks. Please bear with us while I discover where the stories have disappeared to. Where have I put the stories? Oh, here they are. All right. So the magic behind the scenes you can kind of see happening a little bit here. Yeah, so I picked the wrong story. The one we were supposed to do first is this one. So we have to pretend like we didn't actually cover the story now. So that's the way it goes. Any other? Yeah, there were a couple more comments here.
Oh yes, and not the jerk sister is very entitled. And it looks like Mary's screen keeps freezing in the comment section. Yeah, I'm having issues with the comments too.
Oh.
I think they've updated things and like it's just not working as well as it usually does.
Oh, are you doing top chat or are you doing live chat?
I don't know. It just says chat.
Oh, I don't know. Weird. Because it should be set to live chat. I don't know why it
I mean,
it
says live chat at the top for me.
Okay. But I don't know. Hopefully the comments resolve themselves at some point in time. But I'll read off a couple of here as well. So, Sweet Memories said that she's entitled. Mary said that she wouldn't be doing the sister any favors. And, yeah. Let's move on to the next story, though. All right, folks, and our first letter, technically our first letter, is titled, Am I a Jerk for Putting a Stop to My 12-Year-Old Daughter's Period Party? So let me set some stage here. My wife and I, a 43-year-old male and a 42-year-old female, have two daughters, 7 years apart. The 19-year-old was at college in a different state when all this happened. The girls are very different. The 19-year-old is outgoing, even extroverted, loves meeting new people, trying new things, etc. And the 12-year-old is shy, a homebody, and finds things comfortable with that she likes and sticks with them. In fairness, the 19-year-old was kind of like this until she was 16 or so, so maybe it's genetic. Well, a couple of months ago, the 12-year-old comes to me in my home office, obviously upset. She stammers a bit and then she manages to tell me that she just got her first period. I play the supportive dad, I comfort her, and I get her a box of sanitary pads. My wife had bought earlier in the year, guessing that it was going to happen sooner or later. And I go over the instructions with her. She goes into the bathroom, does what she has to do, and thanks me for my help. I got her some ice cream and some Midol, and I told her that there was nothing to be embarrassed about, and that she could always come to me for anything. Well, my wife gets home later that day. 12-year-old tells her what happened, and wife starts crying. My little girl is growing up, etc. Then asks who should be invited to the quote-unquote period party, which I only knew of from listening to Bert Krishner. If they were a thing when our 19-year-old started, she never asked for one. 12-year-old immediately closes off, says that she doesn't want a period party and she doesn't want anyone to know. Wife tries to talk some more to her, but 12-year-old ignores her and goes to her room. Wife tries to enlist my aid in changing her mind, but I tell her that she said that she didn't want one, so don't worry about it. Well, 2 days later, I get home from running errands, and before I can even make it to the stairs, my 12-year-old runs up to me and asks if she can do her homework in my office. I'm confused, but I say sure, and she bolts upstairs. At that point, I start to suspect what's going on, and I walk into the living room to find that my wife had not only decorated it like something which she wouldn't have looked out of place on my super sweet 16, but there were several family members, all women, and a few I recognized as neighborhood mothers. Well, I beckon my wife into the hall, and I ask where 12-year-old is, and she asks where 12-year-old is. And I tell her that she wanted to do homework in my office. She rolls her eyes and starts to move past me, but I step in front of her. Me, what are you doing? Wife, going to go get the 12-year-old. It's her party. Me, she told you specifically that she didn't want one of these. Wife, oh, she didn't mean that. This is an important time for a girl, and she needs to know it's nothing to be ashamed of. Me, she's not. I already explained things to her. She just doesn't want to talk about it anymore. Wife, I don't expect you to understand. This is just for us women. She actually tried to push past me, but I stepped into the doorway and completely blocked her. Wife, what's wrong with you? Me, what's wrong with you? You know how shy the 12-year-old is. You knew that she didn't want you to do something like this, and you did it anyways. Wife, I told you it's for her own good. We can't let her grow up with a negative attitude towards something so natural. Me, and we're not. And I told you, she knows what's going on here, and she's getting a handle on it, and she just doesn't want to talk about it with anyone else right now. Wife, well, it wasn't your business to tell her about it anyways. Me, you were at work. Was I supposed to ignore her for hours until you got home? Wife, you could have called me. I would have come home. Me, it still would have taken you an hour. She thought she was upset. I knew what was going on. I talked to her. Wife, you don't know anything. I think the dialogue here is getting a little kind of repetitive at this point in time, but it's, you wouldn't know anything about this. It's never happened to you. At this point in time, I gave up. I pointed to my wife and I said, no, I've never had a period, but I've had 3 older sisters that I've lived with and a girlfriend before my wife. Plus I've met, then that I've almost been married to 20, blah. Plus we've been married for almost 21 years. I'm pretty well versed. She tries again to move past me, but I don't move. And basically the wife at this point in time gives up. Well, she goes back to the living room and tells the other ladies that the period party is off because I'm being a jerk, and I lose it. I follow her, and I let the women know calmly, but in no uncertain terms, that I appreciate what they are wanting to do, but the 12-year-old made it explicitly clear that she did not want this party, and that wife is trying to pressure her into it. Well, several of the moms frown at her, and my wife starts to backpedal, talking about how she didn't think the 12-year-old was being serious, but I ignore her and I begin taking down the decorations. Everyone clears out shortly, and once the coast is clear, the 12-year-old comes back downstairs. My wife gives her a apology and says that she didn't think the 12-year-old was serious, but 12-year-old also ignores her and starts doing her homework in her usual place at the table. My wife is mad at me for a week, claiming that I undermined her authority as a parent and apparently not helping her force her daughter into something that she didn't want to do, and made her look back in front of in front of the neighborhood moms by telling them that she had been doing this against their daughter's wishes. All right. There is an update to this one. Essentially, the wife does kind of
come
around. She apologizes. She has a heart-to-heart with the daughter. The mom, she had kind of a rough upbringing, and their mother was a little neglectful and stuff like that. And when she kind of explained this point of view to the mom, to the daughter and her kind of made amends. So It was an overall, it's kind of a nice ending in that respect. I would get into it, but I had forgotten how long this one was.
Yeah, same.
And it is much, much longer. We can read it all.
It does have a happy ending.
It does have a happy ending. We can read the whole thing if everyone wants to, or we can leave it here.
The summary is probably good. The key thing is she finally recognized that she was in the wrong. And but yeah, I think that OP was definitely in the right here. The daughter made it very clear that she did not want this party. Now, the daughter tends to not like celebratory things, so the mom was like, oh, well, if we just do the party for her. But I feel like there's a huge difference between like a surprise birthday party and a surprise period party. Like, when I was that age, I didn't want anyone to know. It was like, nope, not telling anyone.
Yeah.
And so I would have been absolutely humiliated. Like, and I love parties, but like that's like the one party I would have been like, no, I'm running away.
Well, I mean, I understand, wanting to celebrate something like a period. There's a lot of cultures that I think do celebrate this to some degree. I don't think it's very common in the United States and in Western culture, but I do know that I've heard of some cultures that do celebrate it, right? And I'm wondering if these period parties are kind of like a derivative of that.
I mean, I've heard of them before, and I think it could be coming from another culture. It could just be like, because a lot of things about womanhood are so treated as like dirty and negative, it's just a way to try and reclaim it and turn it into something positive.
Yeah, and it should be positive, right?
It should be, but the problem is like when it's been made so like awkward and shameful by society. Like, again, 12 is such a vulnerable age, and so like the last thing you want is a bunch of people talking about your bodily functions.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's it. It's like, it's a bodily function, and not everyone wants to talk about their bodily functions. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's also nothing wrong with periods, and they shouldn't be considered, something that you can't talk about, right?
Right, yeah, I definitely think, they should not be a taboo topic, but I think that the mom really needed to take her daughter's feelings into account and respect her daughter's wishes.
Yeah, but what do the comments have to say?
So Mary says, this mom is every girl's nightmare. And then Marcia says, I never heard of a period party. Most girls don't want anyone to know. Mary said, period party is also new to me. Mary said, we can't let her grow up having a negative attitude about motherhood either. Stand down, woman. And then Marcia said, this man deserves an award. His wife is nuts. Mary said, I seriously can't believe that wifey found any guest who thought it would be a good idea. Save the energy for first IRS audit.
I love it.
And then Sweet Memory says, the dad handled it well, but I'm glad that it happened when I was at home, and my mom too. I called my mother, and my dad was just, what was wrong? But I said, no, I need mom. Haha.
Yeah, I mean, I don't blame you there. Speaking of awkward situations, our next letter is titled, Am I a Jerk for Stop Seeing Someone After I Learned That They Have a Kid? And my segue finally works. Hey, 32-year-old female here as a throwaway account. I don't want any kids, and I've never wanted any kids. I also don't want to date single fathers because of this, and I'm vocal about it. I mentioned it very clearly on the apps as well. Well, around 3 months ago, I matched with someone. We had an amazing conversation, but we both have demanding jobs with conflicting schedules and didn't get the time to meet up until like 5 or 6 weeks ago. Well, we continued talking on call/text, and I cannot explain how amazing it felt to talk to him. His humor, wit, intelligence, and most importantly, his politically progressive views were perfectly aligned with mine. Now, the first time we met, it was as good as I had hoped for. We met around 4 times in the last few weeks, and during our last date, he drops the bomb that he has a kid. I was taken aback for a second, and after gathering my thoughts, I told him that I don't want to continue seeing him. I didn't ask him why he didn't tell me about his kids or why he would even swipe on me on the app, because at that point I felt that he had betrayed me and I just needed to get out of the situation. At night, he sent me a barrage of texts saying that he doesn't want to tell anyone about his kid unless there's a real chance with them. He also accused me of being a coward and letting something so good go by because I was afraid of a little responsibility. I, on the other hand, feel betrayed by him and seriously don't want to deal with kids at all. So am I the jerk? All right, folks, what do you think?
No, not the jerk, and I think it's really good that you went your separate ways because he has shown that he doesn't respect you. I understand sometimes people may not have this conversation for a little while. So if OP didn't have on her bio anything about not wanting kids, I could understand it being a miscommunication.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that she explicitly said, I don't want kids, is clear she knew she didn't want kids. And you just figured, oh, well, I'll just wait till she gets attached to me and then I can change her mind. You do not want to be with someone who is actively trying to manipulate you and change your mind.
Yeah. Welcome, Cat's Tiny. Welcome to the party.
Yes, welcome.
Yes, you're not late. You're fashionably on time. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think the biggest, most concerning point here is that OP made it very clear about their position on kids, and he thought that he could manipulate OP into changing. And this is clear that his goal was to manipulate OP because he's trying to guilt her into having a very reasonable position here. That oh, you shouldn't be afraid of a little parental responsibility, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, she said explicitly that she didn't want to be in a relationship with kids, and he ignored that.
Well, this also shows that he's expecting her to be a parental figure to this child, not just be around a kid occasionally, but that he actually, and my guess is that if he has shared custody, he wants someone to do the momming on his time because he doesn't like parenting. So that's not cool if that's the case.
Yeah, and one little last kind of thing I kind of want to talk about is if this guy had no contact with his children at all, and, that would be up to OP at that point in time to decide whether or not they wanted to be in a relationship with him. He could be like, oh, yeah, I mean, I just, having kids wasn't something for me either. And I pay child support, but that's about as far as I go with having any interactions with them. I think that could be a little bit of a different situation, but that at that point in time would have to be something that OP would have to make a decision if they would want to be with somebody like that, But what do the comments have to say?
Sweet Memory says, not the jerk. I hate when they are not honest about everything. Castine says, yikes, scared of responsibility. Sounds like he's looking for a babysitter or a maid rather than a partner.
Yeah.
And then Sweet Memory says 100%. And then Marsha says, OP knows what she wants and it's good she broke it off. He doesn't need a woman that absolutely doesn't care for her children. And Mary says, OP is afraid of a little responsibility. Boyfriend should be more afraid of finding a spouse who might be less upfront about being child-free. Walk away, OP, and this guy should be ashamed of himself. Well, it also concerns me about the child here too, that he knows OP doesn't want children, is willing to spring a person who doesn't want children on his child in hopes that she'll magically turn maternal.
Yeah.
He's not thinking about his kid's best interest either here. He's just trying to get out of responsibility is my guess.
Yeah, it really does feel like that. It really does feel like that. But speaking of someone who should be ashamed of themselves, our next letter is titled, Am I a Jerk for Telling a Guy Not to Touch Me During a Cosplay Group Shoot? Well, I'm a 23-year-old female, and I was part of a cosplay group recently. We were doing characters from a popular anime that has a lot of big personality types and flirty dynamics. Most of us hadn't really hung out in person before the shoot, but we'd been chatting online and agreed to meet up and do something fun together. Well, one of the guys in the group was playing a character that was kind of flirty in the show, and he was decent online, but in person, he came off a lot. And during the shoot, when the photographer asked for some in-character poses, he grabbed me around the waist without asking, pulled me into him, and later put his arm around my neck in a way that felt overly intimate. At one point, he even tried to pull me in by the hips. It was making me really uncomfortable, and I didn't know how to react at first, and there were a bunch of people around, cameras going off, and I didn't want to be the problem. But eventually, I stepped back, and I just told him kind of quietly, hey, can you not touch me like that? I wasn't rude. I was just trying to set a boundary. Well, he didn't say anything in the moment, but later someone else in the group messaged me saying that I made things awkward and that he felt embarrassed. Apparently, the photographer thought that the pose looked great and I killed the vibe. I honestly wasn't trying to ruin anything. I just didn't want someone grabbing me like that without checking in first. Now I'm being treated like I was being uptight or dramatic, and I keep wondering if I should have just let it go, but at the same time, I don't think that I did anything wrong. So am I the jerk? All right, folks, what do you think?
No, not the jerk, and ditch anyone who faults you for having personal boundaries. Like, I understand wanting to have like character accurate poses and all, but these are people, not props.
Yep.
It is not that hard to just be like, hey, would you mind posing with me?
Yeah.
You know, is it okay if I put my arm around you? Like, he could easily have checked in with OP to make sure that she was on board. And it's despicable. Like, I understand he feels embarrassed, but he should feel embarrassed for making someone else uncomfortable.
Oh, they should all feel embarrassed.
Yeah. And so the people saying, oh, you killed the vibe. No, the person who killed the vibe is the person who is making other people feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, well, I actually really think this is an important story in a lot of ways because when you're in a group, it can actually be really eroding to someone's boundaries. And because of group psychology, if you see other people doing stuff, we're just kind of psychologically programmed in a lot of ways to follow suit, right? So if other people are doing things, then there's a lot of resistance for you to not do those things, right?
Yeah, it's the social pressure of
Yeah.
conformity. You don't want to be the one to cause a scene, to rock the boat, to stand out.
And that can be really dangerous in a situation like this. And that's why in the film photography industry, there's actually a lot of abuse because there are photographers like this guy who do things that are unethical. They use their positions of power in order to, get shots and stuff like that maybe people aren't comfortable with, and pressure people into situations that they wouldn't normally do under normal circumstances. But they're using their position of power, they're using the group dynamic to pressure people into taking shots that they wouldn't normally do. And I think that if you ever feel like you're in a situation where you don't want to be the problem or you don't want to speak out or something like that, it's absolutely critical that you examine your own comfort in that situation and speak out if you feel uncomfortable, because some people aren't looking out for your best interest. They're looking out for their own gratification in some way, shape, or form.
Well, and anyone who would shame you is not your friend, is not worth your time. Like, again, OP didn't ruin anything by expressing their discomfort. If you're not comfortable, that should be something that everyone in the group is concerned about. You should want every member to be comfortable and happy.
Yeah, exactly. But what do the comments have to say?
So Mary says, killed the vibe by saying, stop, what is this, the 1950s? Sweet Memory says, not the jerk, OP was far too patient, plus nobody else noticed that she said something. Cat Science said, not the jerk, never force yourself to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. It's a steep downward spiral, speaking from experience. Sweet Memory says, you have intimacy coaches on set nowadays. And Mary says, this is the kind of guy who sees yes, yes in her eyes when her lips are saying no, no.
Yeah.
Not in today's world, buddy.
Yeah, not in today's world. Speaking of not in today's world, our next letter is titled, Am I a jerk for kicking my mother out for throwing away my son's baking things because she believes that baking is only for girls?
Your segue worked perfectly.
Yeah, I've had a couple of really great segues today so far. Well, my 14-year-old son loves to bake, and he's really good at it. And he started with simple things like cookies, but now he can bake just about anything from bread to pies, even cake. Sometimes friends and people that we know will ask him to bake something, and he will charge them a small fee. My mother has always hated the fact that my son loves baking. She doesn't understand what kind of boy enjoys doing things that are meant for girls. Ironically, his younger sister hates baking. I tried explaining to my mom that there's nothing wrong with my son's love for baking and that she's being sexist, but my mother is stubborn and always makes sure to mention just how much she doesn't approve of it every single chance she gets. Well, she was visiting us just for a few days, and I came home from work to find my son distraught. When I asked him what was going on, he told me that he came back from a friend's house only to find that his baking things had disappeared. When he asked his grandmother, she just said that now he can find a new hobby to appreciate, appropriate hobby. Well, He has a specific kitchen cabinet where he stores all of his baking things, and sure enough, it was empty. They weren't in the trash either. I asked my mother what she did with my son's things, and she proudly told me that she got rid of them because I was clearly not going to do anything about it, and that I was being a bad father for allowing it to go on as long as I did. Well, these were approximately $200 worth of items collected over a period of time. Hand mixer, scale, measuring things, pans, and I told her that the only thing that I have allowed to go on way too long is the constant disrespect for my son, and that she needs to apologize to him and either bring back his things right now or replace them. She stubbornly said that she's not going to do that, so I told her that the first thing in the morning that she needs to leave and that she's not allowed back here or around my children until she learns respect for their choices. And she huffed and puffed all night and left in the morning. She was originally supposed to leave on Sunday and the day after my son's birthday. She even took the gift that she had bought him and left with it. Well, my stepdad called me to let me know just what a piece of garbage he thinks that I am for treating my mother this way and kicking her out like some random stranger. I told him that she did this to herself and I hung up. All right, folks, what do you think?
No, not the jerk. I mean, I think it's really important that OP stepped in and not let his son be bullied by grandma anymore. Like, she has no right to dictate what is and isn't appropriate for a child that isn't even her own. And I think that stepdad is being ridiculous here, acting like she should be able to parent OP's children. Like, it's 2025. Boys can bake too. Anyone can bake. It shouldn't be a gendered hobby. I mean, shouldn't we just be happy that there are more baked goods in the house?
I mean, plus, like, chefs, a lot of chefs, professional chefs are male.
Mm-hmm.
So, and bakers, I mean, so I don't even understand it. It's not like this is even like a job that isn't in a male dominated field type of thing, right? Because I believe the baking and chef industry is largely male dominated. And I mean, like, look at Gordon Ramsay, for goodness sake. Like, is he too feminine for baking? I mean, this is very absurd. The fact that she is criticizing him for this, skill that he's developing. Baking, cooking, those are all really important skills that everyone should know to some degree. And if you don't know them, then, it's going to be more difficult to make yourself nutritious and wholesome meals. And, when you don't teach your kids how survival skills like cooking or baking, when they get out into the real world, it's going to be very hard for them to survive and fend on their own, right?
Well, that, and you become more reliant on heavily processed foods, which also tend to be a lot more expensive and have less nutritional value.
Yeah. Well, what do the comments have to say?
Cat's Tiny says, not the jerk, I'm currently in a baking flurry as I listen to these stories. I've purposely held off on the whisking because I'm expecting my son home at any minute. He's my best baking assistant.
Oh, that's awesome.
And then Sweet Memory says, Grandma also still lives in the 1950s. So many great bakers are men. And Mary says, my first reaction would be an invoice for every single utensil disposed of and a temporary ban, or a visit to her house where I would immediately dispose of any tool and remote. Edit to add, sounds like mother-in-law has her soulmate. And then Marcia says, bad grandma.
Well, this isn't a bad grandma, but speaking of unreasonable demands or things, I don't know. Our next letter is titled, Am I a Jerk for Refusing to Let My Husband Take a Suitcase That We Found on the Side of the Road? Hey, all throwaway because hubby knows my other Reddit account. A little bit of backstories. My husband is a very frugal man. It really doesn't bother me because he's not controlling of my finances or spending. He grew up poor and therefore likes to get freebies any way that he can. In the past, it has been a little bit embarrassing, but I've learned to accept that he's just like that. He earns a comfortable salary, so I genuinely think it's just a trauma response from his childhood. Well, yesterday we were driving up to my parents' house, which has a lot more greenery and is rural. We are past a long strip that is quite isolated and had wildlife, so we were driving relatively slowly. Well, my husband sees a suitcase outside near the grass and proceeds to stop the car and tell me that it looks like it's in good condition and that we should take it. I get very annoyed because obviously, who takes a suitcase off the side of the road? Well, I pleaded and begged to take it home because we could use it in the future, even though we have a suitcase at home. But I said no. He got angry with me and said that I'm not thinking about getting the best deals out of life, and that free things are hard to come by. Hasn't been very happy since speaking to me since yesterday, even though I told him that I draw the line at taking something that potentially belongs to someone. Did I overreact? And should I have just let him take it home for the sake of peace in our relationship? Just finding it upsetting that he's clearly still angry with me. All right, folks, what do you think?
Not the jerk. I mean, again, they have no idea who owned this suitcase or what it has in it.
Yeah.
It could be that it fell off someone's vehicle and they're going to come back looking for it,
Yeah.
or it could have been discarded for a reason, like, there could be a body in there or some kind of infestation or something.
Well, I did post this one on Instagram, and there were a number of comments from people talking about suitcases with body parts found in them, which, I hadn't actually heard of as a thing, but apparently it's more common than I realized. Far more common and far more horrifying than I realized, right? The only thing I was worried about in this situation were bed bugs, right? Like, they can be very sneaky, and you just do not want to get bed bugs. And if you pick up a suitcase off the side of the road, you're almost guaranteed to get bed bugs, right? Like, they are, there's a lot of infestations. And plus, if someone left this here on purpose, there's a reason why they left it by the side of the road.
Well, that's the thing. If they left it on purpose, you don't want it. And if they left it by accident, then they're probably going to come back for it, and you don't want to take something that belongs to someone.
Yeah. Well, and one other thing that people did kind of comment on was that this was could potentially have like puppies or kittens in it. I think in this particular case, if this was like a concern, then they should have maybe approached the suitcase and seen if they heard any noises or any movement out of it. But, generally I think that, people aren't leaving cases of cats and dogs by the side of the road, suitcases of them. So,
well, I would assume that there would be sounds if it was baby animals, if they were alive. You would hear them crying for help.
Yeah, and I mean, like, if a lot of people have like medical emergency things in their car, so you can use like gloves or something like that to open up the suitcase and see if like there are something in there, but I would not take the suitcase.
And like, I understand the scarcity mindset, and there are people close to me who have a very similar mindset, and I kind of grew up with a very frugal mindset, but never to the point of taking suitcases off the side of the road. So he may benefit from a little therapy to help work through these feelings, because again, it's not something they need. Like, he's stuck in a scarcity mindset, but they have suitcases. It's not something that's going to benefit them, and just hoarding things because they're free is not helpful or healthy.
Yeah. Well, and then also like his whole attitude here that OP denied him this. Like, he's acting like OP is terrible for this. And I think that this just shows that he does need therapy to some degree, because like, this isn't a good reaction to a reasonable request. But what do the comments have to say?
Mary says, hubby may be frugal, but he is lacking in the compassion department. Somebody is missing a suitcase. Castine says, haha, my first thought was there was a body in it or some cute puppies. I guess you never know. And Mary says, the ransom money has been taken, and now OP will have possession of the discarded suitcase and tracking device.
Yeah. Well, and that's also something that could be in there as a tracking device, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't want to be on that end of a tracking device. Speaking of being not on that end, our next letter is titled, Am I a Jerk for Telling My Husband That I Would Not Move Without My Name on the House? I don't know if that works. I'll let you be the judge. I'm a 32-year-old female, and I bought the current starter home at age 22. My husband, a 33-year-old male, moved in about 3 years ago, just prior to us getting engaged. I've always considered this to be our house and now 15-month-year-old daughter's home, even though my husband has never financially contributed to the mortgage. Well, we are looking to move to a larger house, not because we intend to have additional children, but because my husband wants a quote-unquote man cave as well as a work-from-home office. He also says that he wants a large house to host parties just like his childhood home. I support his need for his own space, and I also see the potential move as a way to help our daughter get into a better public school jurisdiction. Well, yesterday my husband told me that he wants to come that when it comes to signing for the new house, that it should only be in his name on the deed. He believes that he could qualify for a first-time home buyer, and this would save money on closing costs. We would be using the equity in our current home, about $200,000, for a down payment in order to afford the new mortgage. Well, I told him as a woman that I need to protect myself and that I would not move without my name being included on the home. I told him that it would be dumb of me to use the equity in my home that I've lived in for 10 years and not to have my name on the new home. I mentioned that if something were to happen or his feelings for me were to change one day, that I would be left with nothing. He became very upset by me saying this, and he said that my thinking is flawed and that I need to go to a therapist to work on why I think like this. Well, I told him that I don't believe that my thought process is irrational or flawed, and that while I understood that he was offended by my statement, that this was a non-negotiable thing for me. Well, additional some background, my husband makes the same amount of money as I, and he pays the electric bill and half of daycare. He constantly talks about money and saving and has made me cancel subscriptions like the gym in the past just to save a quick buck. When our daughter needed surgery, his first thought was, well, how much is this going to cost? While mine was, is this surgery needed and safe? Well, he grew up in a very wealthy family, and I grew up in lower middle class. So Reddit, am I the jerk? Well, update, I just want to thank each of you for your advice and confirmation that I'm not out of line in my thinking. I will be contacting a lawyer to set up a trust for my daughter. I will also work on having the will and power of attorney completed. I revisited the conversation tonight with my husband, and he said that the problem is that I feel like I need financial protection from him. He feels that it isn't his job, that he isn't doing his job as a husband to make me feel more secure. I let him know that I appreciate his input and know that he loves me, but that I would not be essentially handing him over $200,000. I have told him that we should go to couples therapy for some outside perspective, to which he replied that he doesn't want to talk about finances with a couples therapist, but that I should explore why I feel the need to financially protect myself. I have told him, for the time being, that we will have to agree to disagree and that I will not be moving forward with his plan. Edit to add, I've gotten some questions either in the comments or by DM, so I thought it best to edit for answers. 1, no, I'm not a bot and this isn't fake. My name is Ashley and I live in Virginia with my family and my 15-month-old daughter. No, my husband is not on the deed or mortgage of our current home. We got pregnant 3 months after getting married, and life has been really busy, so I never got around to having him added. Well, 3, he takes care of financial planning. He has an Excel spreadsheet that he uses to divide costs, and it says it's about even. Well, he does pay for 3/4 of the groceries, he does pay for groceries 3/4 of the time. My apology for not adding that part, but he does contribute that way. We do not have a prenup. I asked for one prior to our wedding, but my husband refused, saying that it was insulting and that you don't go into a marriage preparing for divorce. 6, I am aware that he's kind of garbage when it comes to finances, but he's good in other respects. He seems truly to love me and our daughter. 7, I do think that his upbringing absolutely has impacted how he acts towards finances. 8, I made this post to make sure that I wasn't being crazy and that I am extremely grateful for all the advice that I've received. I am aware that my husband gaslights me. His mother is very manipulative, and I think that it is a learned behavior from her that I've been trying to work on him with. 9, we did do couples coaching prior to getting married, and I thought that we were on the same page, but his point of view on money has changed once we were married and even worsened after our child. And 10, you're all wonderful, and I thank you very much for all the support and advice. All right, folks, what do you think?
No, absolutely not the jerk. I'm glad it sounds like OP is not planning on handing him over the equity in the house. This does seem very shady, that he wants this in his name only and just expects OP to trust him. I also don't like how it sounds like he's in full control of the finances, and OP says that he says that it's equitable, but like, if you're not seeing the spreadsheets, how do you know? Like, OP, if I were in your shoes, I would get more involved in the finances ASAP.
Well, yeah, there needs to be, like, if she doesn't know if it's equitable, then that's problematic, because like, that's just kind of begging to be abused at this point in time, especially with the way he's been acting around money. And like he says, oh, you should trust me, but then he's not doing anything to instill trust in OP.
Mm-hmm.
And that just makes me very concerned, right?
Right. Like, this does not sound like, as much as he's like, oh, you just need to trust me, this does not sound like someone worthy of trust. Like, why is it a threat to him to have OP's name on the title, especially when she's contributing $200,000 of equity?
Yeah, well, I know that he wants this first time credit, but surely that's not worth his marriage,
Well,
right?
that's the thing, is like, he's getting way more by OP's equity than he would whatever discount he gets as a first time home buyer.
Yeah.
But clearly he sees OP's money as his money and his money as his money.
Well, yeah. I mean, I would be very cautious if I were OP, and I would start looking at the finances here, especially since he is so resistant to going into like couples therapy at this point in time to talk about finances, because finances are one of the biggest sticking points that couples have.
Yeah,
right?
if you're not on the same page about finances, that's a big issue. And it sounds like he's like forced OP to cut things, and OP doesn't even know if that's necessary.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he decided her gym membership wasn't worth it, so she had to cut it. What is he cutting? What is he splurging on? Does he have secret accounts you don't know about?
Well, yeah, and I mean, I think you bring up a really good point. Like, if he's forcing OP to cut things and he himself isn't cutting his own things, right? Then what does that say about him, right? And the fact of the matter is that they're surely like saving money because it's OP's house, but he's here, oh, you need to cut expenses and stuff like that, right? I don't think that's fair at all. But what do the comments have to say?
Cat's Tiny just has red flag, red flag, red flag, red flag, red flag. And then Mary says, OP, not a penny to the down payment without your name on the deed. Run, figure out parenting, but do not let this bloodsucker near the equity of your house. Marcia says, OP is correct to have her name on the house. Mary says, he takes good care of financial planning, in quotes. Thank you, OP, I needed a good laugh. And then Sweet Memory says, run, OP, run. He comes from a wealthy family. He needs to put down the same amount OP is putting in for the new house. I would say $100K each, and OP's name needs to be on the deed.
I mean, I think that's a really good point. And I mean, maybe he doesn't have access to his family fortune, but it's a little strange that he comes from a wealthy family and is like worried about a first-time home buyer discount.
Yeah, I think that's just an excuse so he can keep OP's name off of it. I mean, I've heard a lot of these rich families who try to just swindle whoever marries into the family out of everything, so all the property stays in their name or becomes theirs.
It's not good. It's not good. Speaking of not good, our next letter is titled, Am I a Jerk for Not Waking Up a Tourist Who Overslept and Missed the Day of the Trip that she had paid for, and missed a day of the trip she had paid for? Well, hi guys, I'm a 21-year-old female and I'm a Bulgarian tour guide who accompanies groups to Sicily. On a recent trip, one woman who was traveling alone, mid-30s, was constantly oversleeping. Well, the first day after we arrived, we had a day trip to Etna and Taormina. Sorry, I just butchered that. For which we depart at 8 a.m., and as we do on all other days of the tour. I made sure that all tourists are informed of the departure times on the bus the day before, and they also have my number to call in case they forget so I can remind them. They also all have printed out pamphlets with the schedules made by the travel agency that I hand out that has the times for the departure on it. Well, all of the group was on time except for one woman. She was late by 10 minutes, which, okay, maybe she got caught up in something and was running late. I excused it, and then I mentioned to the whole bus in a mic that I do not tolerate lateness beyond 15 minutes. Unless it's in case of emergency, like a forgotten possession, and that I must always be called and informed in case someone is running late. The trip went okay otherwise. Well, the next day, this same tourist was late again, by 25 minutes, almost an entire half hour. I called her twice to no answer, and we were just about to leave without her when she came out running and got on the bus. She got lucky as the receptionist of the hotel asked me about a missing piece of info on the rooming list, and that earned her some time. I reminded everyone again that I will not be waiting for anyone anymore, and any more late tourists in the morning, and waking up on time is their responsibility. Well, when we came back that evening, she asked me if I could, quote unquote, make sure to wake her up on time. I reminded her a third time that it's not my responsibility for waking people up. Everyone gets printed an itinerary with departure times, and I announced everything the day before. She kept saying, no, no, just knock on my door if I'm not out by 8:15. And I kept repeating, I really can't do that for everyone. Please set an alarm. Well, on the day that we were visiting Syracuse, she didn't show up. I waited 15 minutes, and after the supposed departure time, I called her twice with no response. Then left with the bus and the rest of the group. She called me in a panic about an hour later, asking where we were, and I explained the situation to her calmly. She got angry and said that I had one job and that I cheated her out of money that she had paid to go on that trip for that day. She missed the whole day of the trip and was furious the next day. Later, she told the rest of the group that I abandoned her and also called the agency, leaving a bad review about me. Am I the jerk for not personally waking up a grown woman despite warning her multiple times that I wouldn't? And folks, there is a little bit of additional information here. They're all Bulgarian, right? So this isn't like a language barrier or anything like that. They all speak the same language. They, are from the same background. So there isn't, that kind of stuff. But what do you think?
I mean, the person was right. Obi had one job, but that job is to chauffeur people around, guide them through the city, not to wake people up.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, does she, it is her responsibility to find some way to get herself up. It is not the responsibility of other people. Like, if she needs to hire someone to wake her up in the morning, she can do that. But your tour guide is not your personal babysitter.
Or talk to one of the other guests and ask them if they can get her up, or talk to the hotel and see if they can do a wake-up call, or set an alarm on your phone, because everyone has a phone, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know why she's having such a difficult time waking up in the mornings, but that certainly isn't OP's problem or OP's fault, right?
Right, and OP made it very clear that that's not part of her job, and this woman just kept trying to push OP and be like, well, you just need to wake me up. At that point in time, OP said, sorry, this isn't what I do. You need to figure out your own thing.
Mm-hmm.
There's not much else OP can do.
No, but what do the comments have to say?
Sweet Memory says, not the jerk. Some hotels have wake-up service. As OP said, her own responsibility.
Yeah, yes. I guess we didn't talk long enough for the other comments to filter in.
Yeah, but I feel like this one's pretty straightforward.
It is pretty straightforward.
And then Mary says, consistently oversleeping. Not the jerk. You are absolved of guilt, OP. And I'm sure the rest of the tourist group held no sympathy for her. I'll bet her complaint history precedes her.
I'm sure it does. And again, this isn't fair to the other members of the group. It isn't fair to hold people up. And she got away with this 2 days in a row. And she's lucky she got was able to even make it the day before, right? And some people just need to learn the hard way.
Yes.
To take responsibility for their actions.
And then Marsha says, "Wow, blame the tour guide for your laziness. Hope the guy didn't get in trouble."
Oh, and OP did update some in the comments. They say that that their travel agency is really good about things like this, so there isn't a good chance that they'll get in trouble for this.
Well, that's good.
Speaking of trouble, our next letter is titled, Am I a Jerk for Telling My Girlfriend That Her Tradition of Letting Her Dad Pick Out Her Wedding Dress is Weird? My fiance is a 31-year-old female and I am a 33-year-old male, and we are planning our wedding. Everything was going smoothly until she told me that she's going dress shopping with her dad. Apparently, in her family, it's a tradition that the dad picks out the dress, not the mom, not the bride, not even the bridal party. Her dad picked her mom's wedding dress and the other's older sister as well. I asked if it was a joke, and she said no. She even said that she likes that he chooses it because it makes him feel included. I told her that I thought that it was super weird and borderline creepy, and that a grown woman shouldn't need her father's stamp of approval for a dress that she'll be marrying someone else in. She said that I was sexualizing something that was purely sentimental and family-oriented. She got really hurt and said that I insulted her entire family. I apologized for how I said it, but not for feeling uncomfortable. I want her to feel beautiful, but I also want her to choose something for herself and not wear something because her dad thinks that it's elegant. Am I the jerk for saying that it's weird and asking her to rethink her tradition? All right, folks, what do you think?
Yeah, I think OP just needs to let this go. It's her wedding dress at the end of the day. And, it just sounds like she wants a sweet memory with her dad.
Yep.
You know, I'm assuming they'll be picking together, not just he unilaterally is like, okay, this is the dress you're wearing. I mean, I guess if that's what she wants, that's what she wants. But, like, it sounds more like just kind of, they'll pick out a dress together and it's just a way for him to feel included.
Yeah, well, I mean, if OP is so worried about this tradition, then I mean, it's perfectly acceptable that he shouldn't let his father pick out his wedding dress or wedding clothing, right? Um, like, if it makes you uncomfortable, then don't do it, right? But no one is forcing him into this situation, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is something that she's doing voluntarily, and she wants to embrace this tradition. If she was unhappy about it and she was like complaining to OP and it's like, oh, I don't know how to handle this situation, I would feel really bad if I let my dad down, I'm uncomfortable with this, it would be, one thing for him to be like, oh, well, you really need to put your foot down and
Yeah.
talk about this.
Well, that's it. Is like if she was uncomfortable with this and was like, well, but I just have to, it's tradition. Like that's the point where it's time to be like, whoa, back up. Like just because something's tradition, you don't have to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But it sounds like she really wants this and it's something she's looking forward to.
Yeah, and how is it creepy, right?
I mean, I just feel like it's not any different from like having, your mom give feedback
Well,
on
that's
your
it
dress
too, right? Like the mom oftentimes helps pick out the dress, right? And I think that in this particular case, with the dad doing it, so what, right? I mean, it's a small part in the whole overall wedding if he wants to pick out a dress. And I'm sure he's not doing it, without some input from his daughter, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm sure it's not just a blind, this is the dress, you will wear it type of thing, right? But, I mean, she has the final say in whether she wears it or not at the end of the day.
Right. Well, and if he's overbearing in other aspects, then that might be a place for concern. But if it's the one thing that he and the daughter both want, then
Yeah.
it's not worth fighting over.
But what do the comments have to say?
Mary says, is this a tradition or a compulsion? I would have serious second thoughts about marrying into/buying into this daddy dynamic. And Marsha says, groom needs to accept her customs.
I mean, those are fair. Those are all fair. I mean, there could be something more going on here, and there could be, it could just be a innocent tradition. If he's uncomfortable with this kind of tradition and he wouldn't want it for himself, then it also might be something to think about before getting into this marriage, right? Because if this is something that he's going to be expected to do in the future, that might be a conversation for them to have right now. Like, oh, are you going to expect me to do this for our daughter if we have one? Like, I'm not comfortable with that. I don't want that. And then that's, kind of a cultural conversation at that point in time, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, folks. Speaking of culture, I don't know. This has nothing to do with culture at all. Our next letter is titled, Am I a Jerk for Telling My Husband That I Would Rather Save My Own Son? We'll read this one, and then we'll do tea time, and then we'll do our last story. How's that sound, folks?
Which our last one is funny.
Our last one isn't a downer, right? All right, folks. This letter is, did I already read the title? I think I did.
Yeah.
For telling my husband that I would rather save my own son. Well, I've been trying to write this out for a couple of days because I truly feel like an awful human being, and I have so much trouble putting this into words. This involves me, a 27-year-old female, my husband, a 27-year-old male, and my son, a 7-year-old. My son has a different dad, and his dad is completely out of the picture. Me and my husband have been talking about kids for a little while, and about half a year ago, he started asking me a question that I've refused to answer. Well, the question is, if we had a child and you had to choose to save your son or our child to save, who would you save? It's a bit different from time to time, but it's about if we had a child and I was put in a situation where I could only let one of them live, who would it be? I refused to answer this question because it honestly was off-putting and weird, and it was just uncomfortable. There's no answer to it, none. So for 6 months, I have refused to answer, and he can pester me about it for half an hour before he lets it go. Then it can take anything from an hour to a week before he goes again. Well, about a week ago, he asked again, but this time had already asked 6 times in a day. So this time, he had been pestering me about it for the whole day. I couldn't even speak before he told me to answer the question. if I asked him something, he said that he would answer my question if I answered his. So he said that it was just a hypothetical and he would just like to know my answer, just for fun. Well, after this, it had been going on, I blurted out that I would rather save my son. He got stunned by my answer before he got mad at me, and he said that it was just a funny question and that he never expected me to put my own child in front of our child, that I was weird for answering it. He has barely talked to me since, and I know that I did wrong, but at the same time, I was so tired of this being brought up so much. So was I the jerk? All right, folks, what do you think?
OP, get out of this relationship if you can. This does not seem healthy at all. Of course, the actual, like, living real child trumps the imaginary child. Like, there is only one actual child in this scenario. There's nothing wrong with having, like, it's a horrific, like, thing to ask in the first place, and OP has been wrestling with it, but of course she's going to have a bit more affinity for the child that actually exists than the one that's just a hypothetical in her mind. And his reaction, though, really concerns me, because he's making it very clear here that he values this hypothetical child over the actual child in his life. And that if he and OP were to have a child of their own, I could see him pushing OP's child away and being like, this is the only child we care about now. Forget about your son, essentially.
Yeah, well, this is a pecking order question.
Mm-hmm.
He's trying to establish a pecking order. He's trying to diminish OP's son's role in her life. He's just trying to say, well, now we know who's more important, our child or your child, right? And this isn't a fair or good question.
No, it's not.
This is just a terrible question to ask somebody. It's a cruel question to ask someone.
It is. It's just horrible, and it's all, like, pretty much never going to happen. Like,
yeah. Well, and the thing is, like, I think that most parents would do everything in their power to save both children, and they would live with horrible regrets if they couldn't, save both children for one reason or another, right?
And, like, the fact that he would tell OP, oh, this is just a for fun question, but then get so mad at her for giving an answer and saying, oh, well, you shouldn't answer after he has been hounding her. Like, OP, what are you actually getting out of this relationship other than constantly being pestered with terrible hypotheticals?
Yeah, that's such a harassing thing to ask. It's such a horrible thing. And, like, this is the way he's approached the situation, asking her constantly every single day,
I mean, that would get
multiple times a day.
And yeah, it would get so tedious and frustrating. Like, I would have gone out of my mind already.
I mean, I would have divorced him, right?
Yeah.
Like, after the third time of asking, I would have been like, look, you can either stop asking this question or we can get a divorce, but it's your choice about which one of these things happen, right? And if he keeps asking, actually serve him with divorce papers, right? But yeah, this is like, OP is being put under almost psychological torture for the last 6 months, that he's, like, asking this day and night all the time. Just rude. But what do the comments have to say?
Marcia says, oh my, no one should ask that of anyone. Mary says, okay, this is a sick question, and the fact that it has been repeated means he's not dad material. I would ask him, why don't you see my son as your son?
Yeah.
That's the important question. And then Marcia says, did they say they were married yet? She needs to run away from this guy. And then also, Amber, not related to the story, but my Halloween lover daughter has brought Halloween parties to New Zealand and Australia. She would be your best friend. Oh, that is awesome. I love Halloween.
Amber really does love Halloween.
I do.
Speaking of Halloween, this has nothing to do with Halloween, but it's tea time. Grab your beverages of choice. I've got some tea right here. Amber, she allegedly has a joke, and we also have the results of the poll.
Let's see. I'm trying to find.
She's trying to find a joke, but folks, the joke is me. It's on me.
Two artists were arguing about who was better. Their argument ended in a draw.
Oh, aha, ha ha. One was named Alexander Hamilton.
And this is from the Ultimate Joke Challenge book.
So our question from Amber is, are you ready for Halloween? And 40% of people said that it's always Halloween in my soul. 40% said no. And 20% said, isn't it a little early? So there weren't any yeses, but there were definitely some yeses.
I mean, Halloween is great. I mean, and granted, like, I don't want to speed time along, so I don't want it to actually be October yet. I just want spooky things happening while it's summer.
Yeah, so I don't know if you heard the beginning of the conversation here at the very start of the video, but I was basically like, I know this sounds like a slippery slope thing, but if we give Amber an extra Halloween day now, it'll only be a matter of time before the entire calendar is Halloween all the time. So Mary's asking if I have Earl Grey. Let's see if anyone else has any other guesses before I go ahead and reveal the secret tea. And it doesn't look like anyone else is answering, so I will just say that I have the special guest tea. It's matcha, but not Earl Grey. But good guess, Mary. Good guess. All right, let's jump into our last letter here. All right, folks. Our last letter is titled, Today I Messed Up by Forgetting That I Was Wearing Wireless Earbuds During a Teams Meeting. So I'm a 28-year-old male and I work from home and I use wireless earbuds to take calls because I hate sitting still. I like to pace around while talking, clean the kitchen, or chase my cat out of forbidden zones. Well, yesterday we had a big Teams call, cameras off, one of those quarterly strategy syncs that basically translates to a 40-minute word salad from upper management and 10 minutes of questions that no one wants to ask. Well, I had my earbuds in and I thought that I was muted. Mid-call, I start cleaning, talking to my cat, and I ask, "What are you doing, Gremlin?" "No, you can't eat plastic. You tiny little moron." And then I fart, loud, like cartoon sound effect loud. And I chuckle and go, "That was bold of me." Well, that's when I hear my manager mid-sentence pause, and then another colleague goes, is someone not muted?" And I look down at my screen. Nope, I was audio host. Everything was heard. Everyone heard everything, and I died. Instant respawn, left the call, took a fake bathroom break. Later, my boss manages me and says, "Great energy today." Kill me. All right, folks, what do you think?
It was just a silly story. I mean, hopefully everyone understands.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just kind of funny, and so.
Well, I mean, we all have embarrassing situations, but I think
Yes.
that's why when it comes to meetings that you should probably be engaged in them as much as possible, or absolutely make sure you're muted. But I mean, in some ways, like the OP isn't quite like at fault because they should mute everyone in those kinds of conversations. Like usually for those big planning meetings, that's what ends up happening is they mute
They auto
everyone.
mute, and then you have to like manually unmute yourself if you want to talk.
Oh no, like they don't even allow us to unmute
Oh.
ourselves. So like in my big meetings that we have of these, all cameras are automatically off and every person is automatically muted except for the people granted basically the rights to speak. So if you want to ask questions, they either have a place to ask questions or you can ask them in the comments or something like that. But yeah, you're not permitted to talk. So I think in some ways it's just kind of poor planning on their part.
Yeah.
But what do the comments have to say?
So per tea time, Mary says perpetual Halloween sounds like heaven and Cavity City. And then we have all been there in one shape or form. Nice to have that affirmation.
Yeah. But I guess that's it, folks. That's the end here. Our next live stream, as you can see, is going to be in August. So thanks to everyone for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed our show today. Thank you, Mary, for joining us. Thank you, Marcia. Thank you, Sweet Memories. Thank you,
Cat's Tiny.
Cat's Tiny. I think those are the only people who made an appearance today in the comments. If you also joined us and you want me to say hi to you, you can always say something in the comments and I can say hi to you. I know there are at least more people hanging out, lurking in the background.
I'm a lurker.
Yes, there are at least 6 people on this meeting call, this big quarterly meeting.
Yes, this is our big meeting.
Yes. Yes, thank you for all the advice and participating in the chat as well. So thank you, Mary. Thank you, everyone. It's been a pleasure. Hopefully we see you August 29th of later this next month.
Or maybe sooner if I have my little writerly thing.
Oh yeah, Amber is also doing another writers chat type of thing at some point in time in the future.
Yeah, potentially not this upcoming Saturday, but the one after. Just a little. I have a ton of updates, and so if you want to hear more updates about my writing, we'll be doing the book 2 title reveal and release date reveal next week on social media, and so I'll have all kinds of updates on book 1. Book 2, I have new short stories out, so lots of stuff.
Yes. Well, that Cass Tiny, don't worry about it at all. We know you are baking, and that can be very difficult to bake and type at the
Yes,
same
and
time.
there's no pressure to talk. We like people who lurk just as much, so don't feel pressure. We enjoy having you in our presence.
Yes.
That sounds kind of weird maybe, but you know what I mean.
Yes, we do know what you mean, Amber. Thank you, Marcia, as well, for your time, and I hope you all had a great time. Where do you join the test? Oh, message retracted. She must have had a mistype somewhere. But thanks again, everyone, and I guess we'll see you all later.
Yes, bye.